indefinite detention under 1997 consent decree known as the Flores Settlement. The Flores Settlement says migrant families can be detained for no more than 20 days, leaving the order status in court in doubt. But the president's conflicting statements are complicating legislative efforts, says Senator Jeff Flake, Republican of Arizona. It makes it very difficult, Flake said on ABC's This Week. It's difficult in any event right in an election year when the president has decided to have this at the forefront of the Republican election strategy to paint the Democrats as soft on immigration. It's really a pretty an incredible situation that you can tell none of these people, except for very few, I really wonder, and I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on this. Because you get the sense that a lot of people just hate him and just wish, they hate immigrants. You get the sense, but they totally disagree with the way that Trump's handling this. They're like, oh, if I were just in power, I would be able to handle this so more effectively. He's so stupid. Why can't we just worry about immigrants later and focus on getting more tax cuts and passing that healthcare bill to that's super draconian and helps only the top 1%. Why can't we just do that and worry about immigrants later? But let's get to those immigrants, if you know what I mean. That's you get the sense that's what they're focused on, and they're just like, Trump, I need to keep my seat here. We can't be messing around with this immigration stuff at this point. We just can't, okay? So, can't we just tone down on this awful rhetoric? But, yeah, no chance for that. No chance for that under the Trump administration. Yeah, so he added here, he said, I don't know how in the world we're going to fix this in the short term, given the Florida decision and the lack of infrastructure judges to process these claims. It's a really big mess. And yeah, that is undisputedly true. So Trump's tweets on Sunday threw legal questions into a puzzle. Lawrence Tribe, who's a constitutional law professor at Harvard, said in an email that Supreme Court had repeatedly held that the due process requirements of the 5th and 14th Amendments apply to all persons, including those who enter the U.S. unlawfully. So yeah, we're getting into some real, with this statement here, make no mistake, from Donald Trump, we're getting into some real white nationalist shit. We're getting in some real Tucker Carlson, David Duke, Richard Spencer type stuff. These people don't deserve due process. Repeal the 14th Amendment is what they're saying. And it is incredible. It's really breathtaking, frankly. So as we continue to watch this whole thing fold out. So yeah, that's the thing. It's really, and it's similar to the path that the Jews went on with Hitler. It's similar to that path because they dehumanized them. They said, oh, we don't like them. They're infesting our country. They're taking over and it's just warming up. It's warming up the appetite of Americans to more horrific discrimination and racism, and it's going to keep coming. We're going to keep ratcheting it up. It's obviously unconstitutional what he said, but that does not mean it's not going to stop. All right. Yeah, we now turn our attention to the yield curve. It's a powerful sign of recessions, and it has Wall Street's attention. New York Times' Matt Phillips is reporting. So yeah, you can play down a trade war with China. You can brush off the impact of rising oil prices on corporate earnings. But if you're in the business of making economic predictions, it has become very difficult to disregard an important signal from the bond market. The so-called yield curve is perilously close to predicting a recession, something it has done before with surprising accuracy, and it's become a big topic on Wall Street. Terms like the yield curve can be pretty mind-numbing if you're not a bond trader, but we'll tell you, once you get into the mechanics, it's pretty straightforward here. The yield curve is basically the difference between interest rates on short-term United States government bonds, like 2-year Treasury notes, and long-term government bonds, like 10-year Treasury notes. Typically, when an economy seems in good health, the rate on the long-term bonds will be higher than the short-term ones. The extra interest is to compensate in part for the risk that the strong economic growth could set off a broad rise in prices, known as inflation. Lately, though, long-term bond yields have been stubbornly slow to rise, which suggests traders are concerned about long-term growth, even as the economy still has plenty of shows plenty of vitality. At the same time, the Federal Reserve has been raising short-term rates, so the yield curve has been flattening. In other words, pretty much the gap between short-term interest rates and long-term interest rates are shrinking. So that's that gap between them. So it's pretty much a gap that it's kind of represented on a graph where it's pretty much represent a graph of like 4 percentage points, 2 percentage points, 0 percentage points, and it's pretty much going down now. It's 0.3 percentage points apart from the long and short term interest rates now. So on Thursday, the gap did become between 2 and 10 year United States Treasury interest rates. The gap between 2 and 10 year United States Treasury notes was roughly 0.34 percentage points. It was at these levels last in 2007, when the United States economy was heading into what was arguably the worst recession in 80 years. We got a lot to look forward to, folks. Literally 10 years. 10 years later, this is what's happening. And it's been it's been in the rule. It's like, it's not just Donald Trump's problem here. It's not something that, the tax cuts to this. It's been a systematic deregulation of Wall Street by Congress, by Obama. He's let a lot of this happen, and it's just not been good. It's very worrying. So, like, the signs of the economy, I mean, we'll also see wages stagnating and dropping now as of late. So, I mean, you can say, you want to buy the stock market, but the stock market, it's even down with the trade war stuff. But something tells me it's not gonna stay this rosy forever, and it could turn pretty soon. So, I mean, as scary as references to the financial crisis sound, flattening alone does not mean the United States is doomed to slip into another recession. But if it keeps moving in this direction, eventually long-term interest rates will fall below short-term interest rates. When that happens, the yield curve has inverted. An inversion is seen as a powerful sign of recessions, as the president of the New York Fed, John Williams, said this year, and that's what everyone is watching for. The yield curve inverted or fell below zero before the recession hit in late 2007. So that's when it just dipped below zero, and then things really skyrocketed up again as the recession came during the recession, and this recession came at the end. Anyway, every recession in the past 60 years has been preceded by an inverted yield curve. According to the research from the San Francisco Fed, curve inversions have correctly signaled all 9 recessions since 1955 and had only one false positive in the mid-1960s when an inversion was followed by an economic slowdown, but not an official recession, the bank's researcher wrote in March. So pretty much in our modern economy, inverted yield curve means an almost definite recession. So that's going to be something to watch out for, very much so, in the future. So, anyway, we continue now with this story. Sure, it seems like a strange time to be worried about a recession. Unemployment is at an 18-year low. Corporate investment is picking up steam, and consumer spending is showing signs of rebounding. Some economists on Wall Street think the economy could be growing at nearly a 5% annualized clip this quarter. But if the current economic vigor is reflecting a short-term stimulus coming from the Trump administration's tax cut, then some kind of slowdown is to be expected. Yeah, and then low unemployment could also be a precursor to a recession, though, and the unemployment rate is at an 18-year low at 3.8%, which is pretty good. So, low unemployment is very, very nice while it lasts, but that coupled with the inverted yield rate and the incredibly low wages, obviously you can figure out pretty easily what the effects of lowering or stagnating or slowly dropping wages are. Like, people have less money to spend in the economy, and then it doesn't go back to businesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is that problem that is worth watching. Anyway, I hate to have spent so long there on them. I spent a good however many minutes on that story. Yeah, and that was that was a lot of time on that story. So you know what, on that first story, the immigration story, but it is a very, very important story that I really didn't want to talk about. All right. Oh, good breaking news. We get some good, very important breaking news coming out of the as we go live now on air. The U.S. is announcing that border officials have suspended handing over migrant families for prosecution. That's some good news here. Suspending handing migrant families over for prosecution. Yeah, so we're going to talk about that in just a quick second. Stay with us right here. It's the Spencer Walsh Show. Welcome back to today's show. As we mentioned, just getting some brand new breaking news coming out of the out of our immigration system, out of our court system, out of our government today. And it is the following. We are now, this is what we're finding out. We're getting the good news in. That, this is just breaking now that officially, we're hearing the good news. The U.S. Border Patrol, border officials have suspended handing over migrant families to prosecutors. Something we are all very happy about. That's something that was a policy that has been in place for quite a while. Part of that zero tolerance policy. And it looks like, before we go into the story here, I'm going to have to guess that it was in large part due to the fact that they just couldn't do it anymore because there was such a backlog, such an overflow of cases here that it was just so much to handle. And I think that, to me, makes a lot of sense. But, so the nation's top border security official saying now on Monday that his agency has temporarily stopped handing over migrant adults who cross the Mexican border with children to prosecutors, undercutting claims by the other administration officials that zero tolerance policy for illegal immigration is still in place. So, if we're not prosecuting these migrant families anymore, it's a little bit more than zero tolerance. Let's just say that. Kevin K. McAleen, who's the commissioner of the Customs, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, said he has told border agents to not refer families to the Justice Department for prosecution until the two agencies can agree on a policy that would allow parents to be prosecuted without separating them from their children. So he's Kevin's putting his foot down there. I have no idea. McAleenan. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. So the Justice Department now saying he's telling border agents to not refer families to the Justice Department for prosecution until the two agencies they can get their act together and find a policy that will allow parents to be prosecuted without separating them from the children. And maybe while they're doing that, they should probably work on reuniting those families because that seems like it would probably be the smart thing to do because Immigration and Customs Enforcement does not have enough detention space for these families. The immediate impact of the decision will be that many families will be quickly released with a promise to return for a court date at some point in the future. So pretty much what they were doing before. This is reviving a catch and release approach. Oh man, I can already picture the Laura Ingraham show tonight. I'm assuming it'll be Laura and Ann Coulter, they're going to be freaking out. And yeah, they just cannot get their act together. I think that's what it comes down to. And I mean, they would probably have no qualms doing